You don't talk much these days. Dad said it without looking up from his plate, the turkey half-carved, the silence heavier than gravy. I stabbed at the mashed potatoes. Not much to say. Ryan laughed across the table, his smile sharp. As ever? Since when did you have anything worth saying anyway? I looked up. You always have to be like this. He sipped his wine. Like what? Like better. Dad cleared his throat. Enough. It was always like that. Ryan, the golden boy. I was just the background blur, the quiet one. The one they pitied after Mom died. Right. But they never said it. They just showed it through silence, through stares, through empty chairs left unoffered. Mom died during my second year of law school. It's a heart attack. Sudden, I never made it to the hospital. Ryan did. Of course he did. He was already working. At some fancy firm. He held her hand, said goodbye. I got a voicemail from him later. She's gone. Don't screw up now, and I did. I dropped out. Couldn't focus. I couldn't sleep. But no one asked why. At Thanksgiving, Dad forced us back together. Don't even know why I showed up. Maybe I missed the smell. Maybe I was stupid enough to hope. The dining room was still full of her touch candles she bought. The lace table runner she crocheted, but no one said her name. No one dared. I got up to grab more water and passed by the hallway. That's when I heard Atrian's voice, low and sharp. Just beyond the kitchen archway, he's a disappointment, he muttered to Dad. We don't talk about him. He doesn't exist. My hand froze on the glass pitcher. My throat dried. They weren't supposed to say it out loud. I stepped back into the room like nothing happened. Sat down. Poured water like I hadn't just heard my own blood relatives erase me. Everything okay? Ryan asked, his mouth full of stuffing. I forced a nod. Great. Dad raised his glass. To family. I didn't raise mine. I just stared at the amber reflection of lights in the gravy boat and thought, what's the point? After dinner, I went out back. Gold bit through my sleeves. But I welcomed it. Mom used to come out here with me. We'd sit on the porch swing and she'd rub circles on my palm, saying, you don't have to be loud to be strong. Ryan followed me outside. You're not still mad, are you? I didn't answer. He sighed. You gotta stop being so sensitive. Man, it's pathetic. I turned slowly, buried myself to survive losing her. You climbed the ladder? He shrugged. That's what men do. I stepped down off the porch. Then I guess I'm not a man in your book, he called after. Me, that's not what I meant. But I didn't turn back. I just walked toward the car. Every step echoing with her voice instead of his. Inside my glove box, I kept the last birthday card she ever gave me. I took it out, ran my fingers over her handwriting. You feel deeply. That's your strength, not your shame. I looked back at the house. The windows glowed warm, but it didn't feel like home anymore. And maybe it never had. Not really. Ryan was the golden boy. But gold, I realized, didn't mean pure. It just meant polished. Shiny enough to blind people from what was rotting underneath. And me. Maybe I was the mess they tried to sweep away. I still had my mother's voice in my head, and I was done being silent. Asterisk, the envelope was cream-colored and thick. The kind of paper that whispered money. My name was written in sharp calligraphy, Mr. Noah Carter. I stared at it like it might explode. Inside was the wedding invitation. Ryan Carter and Emma Whitmore, together with their families, request the honor of your presence. ... I nearly laughed after. Everything they wanted me there? I tossed it onto the counter and walked away. I didn't have the energy to pretend. 3 days passed before I picked it up again. That's when I saw it, written in smaller script at the bottom. Emma specifically asked for you. I read it twice, and a third time Emma. It had been years since we talked, but back when I still went to family dinners, she used to sit beside me, always polite, always asking questions no one else did. How's school, Noah? Are you writing again? You okay after your mom? She saw me in ways Ryan never did. I didn't know why she'd want me there now. But that line tugged at something I'd buried. The next morning, I called Aunt Grace. Emma invited me to the wedding, I said flatly. She hummed, soft and knowing. I wondered if you'd get one. I'm not going. You sure? I haven't talked to Ryan in months. He called me a disgrace. Dad's done with me. Dad. Emma isn't, she said. And maybe this isn't about Ryan. I didn't respond. She filled the silence like she always did. You know your mother adored that girl, she once told me. Emma brings out the softness in both my boys. I exhaled. That softness got me kicked out of the family, remember? Aunt Grace sighed. No, honey, that softness is what kept you human. I hung up without deciding. The next day, I found myself staring at the RSVP. My pen hovered over the decline box, but her name had stayed in my head. Emma. The only one who ever whispered, "You don't deserve how they treat you." I checked the box. Except, the wedding was in 2 weeks, a vineyard outside town. Fancy, of course. I dug through my closet. Everything smelled like disuse. My one suit barely fit. I tried it on anyway. The sleeves were too short. It looked like someone trying to be someone else. But maybe that was the point. The day before the wedding, Aunt Grace stopped by. She handed me a garment bag. It was your uncle's. He'd want you to wear it. I didn't ask for this, I said, but I took it anyway. She patted my shoulder. You'd never ask for anything. That's part of the problem. I looked at her. Why do you care so much? 'Cause your mother would have hated seeing you fade like this. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Emma, her soft voice, the way her eyes darted when Ryan spoke too loud, the way she lingered after dinners, like she didn't want to be left alone with him. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe not. By morning, I had made my decision. I packed my suit, the letter, and the card Mom wrote me years ago. As I zipped the bag shut, I whispered, I'm not going for him. I'm going for her. And maybe a little for me too. Asterisk the vineyard. Looked like it had been plucked from a magazine. Rows of lanterns, strings of fairy lights, to guests with perfect teeth and perfect laughs. I felt like a stain on a white tablecloth just walking in. Ryan spotted me from across the lawn. His face twitched, maybe surprise, maybe annoyance, but he turned back to his conversation without a word. Dad didn't even look at me. I found a seat near the back, away from the crowd. My name wasn't on any place card, typical. I kept my head down, let their perfect evening roll right over me. Then I saw her, Emma. She stepped into view like a pause in the chaos simple, elegant, her hair swept up, a soft blush dress hugging. Her like a secret. And then our eyes met. For a second, she didn't move, just stared at me like I wasn't supposed to be real. Then came something else, relief. Like she'd been holding her breath for days and just now let it go. She crossed the lawn quickly, but not too fast, like she didn't want to be seen rushing. To me? Hey, she said, voice low. You came. I nodded, unsure what to say. Her smile was gentle, but tight around the edges. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't either. Still quiet, she said softly. Still kind, I replied. She laughed, but her eyes didn't. Before she could say more, Ryan called out from behind her. Come meet the minister. She tensed. It was subtle, but I saw it. Her fingers clenched, her smile dropped, then returned too quickly. I'll talk to you later, she said, eyes pleading. I nodded again, and she turned away. Walking back to the center of attention, his attention, dinner was served under a giant white canopy. Everyone clinked glasses and told stories about how perfect they were as a couple. I sat in silence, replaying that brief look in her eyes. She didn't look like a bride. She looked like a hostage dressed in silk. After dinner, people wandered, off toward fire pits and music. I slipped away from the crowd, needing air, needing space. That's when I heard soft footsteps behind me. Emma. She looked over her shoulder once before stepping closer. Can we talk? Yeah, I said. We walked toward the edge of the vineyard where the string lights thinned. The night was cool. She hugged her arms close, and her sleeves slipped just enough for me to see the faint outline of a bruise on her wrist. I didn't say anything. Not yet. She looked at me, eyes glassy. Thank you for coming. I needed to see someone who remembered who I was. I swallowed. Emma, are you okay? Her lips pressed together. She shook her head slightly. I don't know. I glanced at her wrist, then met her eyes. Is he hurting you? She didn't answer, but she didn't deny it either. She turned away, her voice barely a whisper. This wasn't what I thought it would be. He changed. Or maybe I just didn't see it before? Why are you still here? I asked. Because it's easier than running. Because everyone expects this wedding. Because I feel trapped, and I don't know how to scream. I took a step closer. You don't have to marry him. I do, she said. At least that's what he keeps telling me. There it was, the truth buried in the fear. My chest tightened. Emma, if you need help, help I'll be there. Shh. She looked at me again, and for the first time that night, her lip trembled. I'm not asking you to fix this. I just needed to know someone still sees me. I see you, I said. I always have. A tear slipped down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly. I have to go before he notices I'm gone. Yeah, I said, voice cracking. Okay. She paused, then stepped in, brushing her fingers lightly over my hand, just a touch. Then she was gone, back into the lights, back into the lie. And I stood in the dark, fists clenched, heart pounding, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do now. Asterisk, I found the letter the next morning, stuffed deep in the inside pocket of my coat. At first I thought maybe it was something I had forgotten, old receipt or note, but the paper felt fresh, folded with care. I pulled it out and saw my name written in delicate, shaky handwriting, Noah. My heart thudded. I looked around the quiet hotel room like someone might be watching. No one was there, just sunlight leaking through the curtains and the echo of last night's conversation still stuck in my head. I unfolded it with trembling hands. Noah, I'm scared. I don't know who else to tell. Ryan isn't who you think he is. Not anymore. Maybe he never was. Behind closed doors, he controls everything. My phone, my friends, my money. He yells. He breaks things. He hasn't hit me yet. But I don't know how long I have before that changes. Told me if I ever leave, he'll ruin me. Said no. One would believe me anyway. I don't want to marry him. I don't know how to run. You're the only one I trust. Please, help me. Emma. My hands shook so badly I had to sit down. She was trapped. And she'd turned to me. Why me? I pressed the letter against my knee and stared at the ceiling. I hadn't cried since Mom died, not even when I dropped out, not when Ryan called me a disgrace. But now I felt like I was cracking, because I believed her. Every single word, because I remembered. You're being dramatic. Dad said when I told him Ryan punched the wall next to Mom during one of his outbursts. Boys, get angry. He didn't touch her. I remembered the way Mom flinched for weeks after that. How she tried to cover it up by saying she'd just been startled. I remember thinking, maybe I was the crazy one for seeing it, but I wasn't Ryan. Had always been good at hiding the cracks behind the shine. I read the letter again, then folded it carefully and tucked it back into my coat. What now? Do I confront him? Do I tell someone? What if I made things worse? My phone buzzed. It was Aunt Grace. Grace, how was last night? You okay? I stared at the screen, and my fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I typed, me. Emma's in trouble. Seconds later, she called. I answered on the second ring. What do you mean? She asked, voice sharp. She gave me a letter, I said. Ryan's. He's not safe. She doesn't want to marry him. She's scared. There was a long pause. She told you all that? Grace whispered. Not out loud, I said, but it's real. I know it is. Grace exhaled. I always wondered. The way she moved around him, the way she smiled with her mouth, not her eyes. What do I do? I asked. You help her, she said without hesitation. Whatever that means. I don't even know how. Yes, you do, she said gently. You've always known how to stand for others. You just forgot how to stand for yourself. I didn't answer. You didn't come to this wedding for Ryan, she added. You came because you still have a heart that works. After we hung up, I stared out the window. Guests were all ready. Arriving at the vineyard again. Rehearsals, brunch, fake laughs, real danger. Somewhere down there, Emma was pretending again. Playing her part, I couldn't let her do it alone. I reached for the letter one more time, held it in my palm like it was alive. "You're the only one I trust," I whispered. "Then I won't let you down." Asterisk, I didn't sleep. The letter burned in my pocket all night. I kept rereading it until the words blurred, my mind twisted in circles. Leave it alone. Walk away. Stay quiet. That's what I used to do. But something inside me wouldn't let me this time. Not for her. Not again. By sunrise, I was already dressed. I found her near the garden path behind the vineyard, away from the staff and the guests. She was picking at rose petals like they were secrets. She looked up, startled. "Noah, we need to talk," I said. She hesitated, eyes darting to the house behind her. "No one's watching," I added. "Not yet." She stepped closer, voice low. "Did you read it?" I nodded. "All of it," her eyes brimmed. "I shouldn't have. Sorry, no," I cut her off. "You did the right thing." She blinked fast, wiping beneath her lashes. I didn't know who else would even care. I care. Her lip trembled. "Him? He's not the man everyone sees." "I know that," I said. "I've known for a long time." She hugged herself like she was holding herself together. "I'm scared, Noah." I looked straight at her. "You're not marrying him." She froze. "I'm not letting you walk into that," I said. "We're leaving together. Before the ceremony." Her breath caught in her throat. "You'd do that for me?" I didn't blink. "Absolutely," she broke. Silent tears, shoulders shaking. I stepped forward, not touching her, just close. Enough for her to feel safe. "I thought I had to go through with it," she whispered, "'cause backing out would ruin everything." "Everyone, you're not ruining anything. You're saving yourself." She wiped her face with the sleeve of her cardigan. "But what if he finds me? We'll make sure he doesn't. I'll figure it out. I don't even know where to go." "I do." I pulled out my phone, showed her the address of a women's shelter. "It's close enough to get too far enough for space. I called this morning. They'll take you." She stared at the screen, then at me. "I'll drive you," I said, "tomorrow morning. Before anyone notices you're gone." Nodded shakily. "Okay." I watched her breathe, like each inhale was a new decision. "Thank you," she whispered. "We're not turning away." "I've done that before," I said, "with Mom, with myself. I won't do it again." She touched my hand briefly. "I trust you." Later that day, I met Aunt Grace in her car, parked near the edge of the property. She handed me a to-go cup. "You look like hell. Didn't sleep. You gonna tell me what you're planning?" I nodded slowly. "She's leaving. Tomorrow I'm taking her." Grace didn't flinch. She just sipped her coffee. "Does Ryan know?" "No." "And he won't. Not until she's gone." Grace looked at me, really looked. I've always had that quiet fire. Just needed a reason to let it burn. "I don't know if this is brave or stupid," I admitted. "It's both," she said. "But it's right." I took a breath. "This isn't just about helping her, I know," she said. "This is about you too." I nodded. "I need to do this. Not for revenge, not to make Ryan pay." She smiled faintly. "To prove to yourself you still matter." I looked out the windshield. To prove I was never the disgrace. She reached over and squeezed my arm. "Your mom would be proud." Swallowed hard. "Get her out safely," she said. "And after that, take care of yourself." "I will." The plan was simple. We'd leave just after dawn, before makeup calls, before anyone noticed the bride was gone. I'd pack the car tonight. Keep the keys close. Emma would meet me behind the old vineyard barn, past the garden, and then we'd go. I didn't know what would happen after, but for the first time in years, I felt like I was standing. Asterisk, the sky was still dark when I parked near the barn. The cold bit at my fingers as I waited, engine off, lights dimmed. My heart pounded with every shadow that moved. I kept checking the rearview mirror like he might come storming out of nowhere. Then I saw her Emma slip through the vines. A small backpack slung over her shoulder, hoodie pulled tight over her head. She opened the passenger door and climbed in quickly, slamming it shut with a shaky breath. "You okay?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, but her hands trembled. "Did anyone see you?" "No," I said. "You?" "I don't think so." I put the car in gear. Gravel crunched under the tires as we pulled away from the vineyard, the giant tent glowing faintly behind us like a nightmare fading into morning. She stared out the window, silent. "You sure you brought everything you need?" I asked. She looked down at her lap. "Everything important fits in here." We drove in silence for a while. The sun began to rise, casting pale light over the empty roads. Her hands slowly stopped shaking. At one point she whispered, "I almost didn't come." I glanced over. Why? Because I kept hearing his voice in my head. "You're nothing without me." Over and over, my jaw clenched. He was wrong. She looked at me then. "I know that now, because you showed me something different." We pulled up too. The shelter an hour later was quiet, surrounded by trees. The building looked warm and safe, like a place where things could begin again. "You sure you want to go in alone?" I asked. She smiled gently. "You've done enough." Before getting out, she leaned across the seat and hugged me tight. Her voice broke as she whispered, "I'm safe because of you." I couldn't say anything. I just nodded, throat tight. She stepped out, closed the door softly, and walked toward the entrance. She didn't look back. I sat there for a long moment before finally driving off. Back home. Chaos waited for me as soon as I stepped into Dad's house. I knew Ryan was already there, pacing the living room like a caged animal. His tie was loose. Shirt half-buttoned, eyes bloodshot. "You think this is funny?" he barked the second he saw me. I stayed quiet. He stormed toward me, fists clenched. "Where is she, huh? Where'd you take her?" "She's safe," I said calmly. "You ruined everything." "No," I said. "You did that all on your own." Dad stood in the hallway, arms crossed, face cold as stone. Ryan turned to him. "Are you just going to let him get away with this?" Dad didn't move. "She left because she wanted to. That's not our business." "It's my fiancée," Ryan shouted. "She was a prisoner," I snapped. Ryan lunged toward me, but Dad held him back. "You're a snake," Ryan spat. "You were always jealous, always pathetic. Look at you, still a loser, hiding behind Mom's memory. I'm at his." Eyes steady. "At least I'm not the reason someone had to run." He tried to push forward again, but Dad's grip was firm. Then Dad turned to me. His voice was quiet, sharp. "You'll never be part of this family again." I stared at him. Made that decision a long time ago. Walked past both of them, my pulse racing, my chest hollow and full all at once. Outside, the air felt clearer. I sat in my car, gripping the wheel, letting the silence soak in. It hurt. God, it hurt. But somewhere under that pain was peace. Emma was free, and so was I. 3 months went by like smoke, slow and silent, but still fading. I got into therapy. Started law school again, this time at night. Small steps, but real ones. Stayed in touch with Emma, just short texts at first, then longer calls. She started sounding lighter, like herself again. One day, she messaged me. I filed it. Restraining order. The court date is next week. I'm terrified. Will you come? I didn't think twice. I'll be there. Front row. The courthouse was gray and cold, but I wore a pressed shirt and tie like armor. I sat on the wooden bench outside the hearing room, heart pacing, even though I wasn't the one on trial. Emma arrived with her lawyer. She wore a navy suit, simple and strong. Her hair was tied back, no makeup, just honesty. She walked straight to me. "You really came," I said I would. She looked down at her trembling hands. "I don't know why I'm still scared. I know the truth. I just... ... He made fear feel normal," I said, "but it's not." She nodded slowly. "Out!" "You for reminding me." When they called her name, she took a deep breath, then entered the room. I followed. Took a seat 2 rows behind her, and that's when Ryan walked in. His suit was perfect, his face stoic, but his eyes found mine, and something cracked. I didn't flinch. He glared, jaw tight.
Oh.
But I didn't look away, because for the first time, he looked smaller than me. Not in size.
Oh.
In weight, the judge asked questions. Emma answered clearly.
Oh.
Her voice shook at first, but she found it. Every time she did, Ryan twitched in his seat. Her lawyer presented the evidence texts. Photos, the letter. I sat silently. I didn't need to speak. The room already knew. When it ended, the judge nodded and granted the order. Ryan was to stay away legally, completely. He stormed out fast. Didn't look back. Emma turned toward me, tears pooling in her eyes. I didn't think I could do it, she whispered. You did more than that, I said. You reclaimed yourself. She stepped forward and hugged me tightly. I couldn't have done this without you. You didn't need me, I whispered back. You just needed someone to believe you. As we walked out, I glanced down the hallway. Ryan stood alone, leaning against the wall, staring at nothing. No one congratulated him. No one patted his back. He wasn't the golden boy anymore. He was just ... Ryan, and somehow that felt right. Asterisk, the news broke quietly. Just a small internal memo. At first, Rion Carter placed on administrative leave pending investigation. But I knew. Emma had told me others from his firm had come forward after hearing her story. Not about what he did to her, but how he treated everyone beneath him. Aggressive, manipulative, condescending, enough to crack the image he worked so hard to polish. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat, but a part of me exhaled. Like the world finally caught up. Then came the call from Dad. You heard about your brother? He asked, voice clipped. Yeah, I said. Long pause. Then you had something to do with it. I told the truth. He went quiet. Then came the line I expected. Family sticks together, Noah, even when it's messy. Funny, I said. That's not what you said to me. Silence again. Then he muttered, you always had a sharp tongue. No, I said. I just finally stopped biting it. He didn't call again. I passed my bar exam 2 weeks later. I stared at the email in disbelief for 10 minutes before letting myself cry. Alone in my kitchen. With my mom's old recipe book still open on the counter, it was the first time I'd cried out of joy in years. A few days later, Emma called. I heard she said before I could say hello, you passed. I laughed. Is that a congratulations? A huge one, she said. But also ... a question. Okay, there's this opening on the board for the women's shelter I stayed at, she said. I want someone with legal knowledge. One who understands trauma. Someone with a spine. Sat down. Emma, I already told them about you, she said. I told them. He saved me when I couldn't save myself. They want to meet you. I leaned back, heart full. You're serious? We need voices like yours, Noah, she said. Not just strong, honest. I nodded even though she couldn't see. Then I'm in. Really? Absolutely. When I walked into the shelter boardroom 2 days later, I wore the suit Aunt Grace gave me. But this time, it didn't feel like a costume. It felt earned. Emma introduced me, and the others greeted me with warmth, not judgment. I told them my story, not all of it, but enough to matter, enough to prove I wasn't just another suit. When I finished, one of the board members said, "You speak like someone who understands both the law and what happens when it fails." I smiled. That's because I've lived on both sides of it. By the time I left, I was already making plans for free legal clinics. Later that night, I drove to the cemetery. I stood in front of Mom's grave with the bar certificate in one hand and a rose in the other. "Hey," I whispered. "I made it. Not like we planned, but maybe ... better." The wind rustled through the leaves above. I sat down in the grass, legs crossed like a kid again. Ryan fell apart, I said. Dad too, but I didn't come to talk about them. I placed the rose gently beside the stone. I just wanted you to know. I found my way. I imagined her smile, the one that said, "You never needed to shout to be heard." As I walked back to my car, my shoulders felt lighter. my steps steadier. For once, my reflection in the window didn't feel like a stranger. It looked like someone I could finally be proud of. Asterisk. The black robe felt heavier than I expected. Maybe it was the weight of everything it took to get here. Or maybe it was pride, finally earned. It's finally real. I stood in the long line of graduates, heart thudding against my ribs. The buzz of the crowd muffled behind the announcer's mic. My fingers kept fidgeting with the sleeve, nervous, excited, a little in shock. 5 years ago, I thought this day would never come. 2 years ago, I stopped hoping, and now, here I was. Noah Carter, the announcer called. I stepped forward. Cheers broke out, not many. Just 2 voices I recognized, Aunt Grace's soft, "That's my boy," and a steady, clear clap I knew was Emma's. I walked across the stage, shaking hands, accepting the certificate, and in that exact moment, everything hit me at once. Grief. For Mom, anger at Dad, the silence from Ryan, the pain, the healing, the slow climb back, but above all of it, joy, raw, quiet joy. When I stepped off the stage, I scanned the crowd. No sign of Dad, no shadow of Ryan, and for once I didn't care. Outside, under the sun, Aunt Grace pulled me into a hug so tight I thought I might break. Your mother would have been sobbing, she whispered into my shoulder. I'm sobbing enough for both of us. I laughed into her hair. Thanks for always showing up. You always gave me something worth showing up for, she said. Then I turned. Emma stood a few steps away, hands clasped, smiled gentle. She wore a soft green dress, nothing flashy, just strong and simple, like her. You did it, she said, stepping in. We did it, I replied. She tilted her head. This was yours, Noah. I shrugged. I don't know. You helped me remember why I started. She moved closer, her voice soft. You saved me, but more than that, you saved yourself. That hit harder than anything. I looked down at my robe, fingers brushing over the sash. This used to feel impossible, I whispered. It used to, she said. Now it's proof. I stood there a moment, surrounded by strangers in gowns and proud families taking photos. But it felt like the world had gone quiet just for us. I'm proud of you, she added. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I'm finally proud of me too, she smiled. That's all I ever wanted. I looked around one last time. The people who doubted me weren't here. The people who believed in me were. And maybe that was the lesson all along. Not everyone deserves front row. Seats to your life. Only the ones who clapped when no one else did. The message came at midnight. A single notification buzzed on my phone as I sat on the couch, sipping tea, reading over notes from my first shelter legal clinic. Ryan, you were always the weak one. Enjoy your fake life. I stared at the screen for a long time. No anger, no heat rising in my chest. Stillness. There was a time those words would have wrecked me, pulled me into another spiral of doubt and shame. But now? No. They felt like a story I'd outgrown. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have something to say, but because I didn't need to say it. I turned off my phone and looked around. The room, my apartment, was small, quiet, but it was mine. Books stacked in the corner. A framed photo of Mom on the table. Notes for a shelter reform proposal on the desk. All pieces of a life I built, not to impress anyone, but to be free. I picked up my phone again, this time not to respond to Ryan. I opened a new message. To Emma.me. Got your email? I'm in for the next board meeting? Also ... Let's keep helping others escape. It matters. She replied instantly. Emma, that's the plan. And hey, thank you for choosing peace instead of proving yourself. That's strength, Noah. The real kind, I smiled, because for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had anything to prove. Not to Ryan, not to Dad, not even to the past. A version of myself who thought silence was survival. I stood by the window, looked out at the quiet city street, and whispered under my breath, I don't need closure. I'm living it. Asterisk. The courtroom was quiet, morning sunlight slipping. Through tall windows, dust floating in golden streaks. I sat at the table in the front row, hands folded, suit crisp, but my palms still slightly damp. My first pro bono case. A woman named Leela, early 20s, scared. Just like Emma had been. Just like my mom once was, even if she never said the A. Words. Emma stood beside me, clipboard in hand. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was a counselor now. Confident, strong, healing in motion. "You good?" she asked softly. I nodded, nervous. "Ready," she gave a faint smile. "That's the best kind of ready." Lila sat beside me, her voice barely above a whisper. He said I'd never win. That no one would believe me. I looked at her, steady. He was wrong. She stared down at her lap. "How do you know?" "Right." Emma leaned in, her voice kind but firm, "Because I said the same thing once and I was wrong too." The door opened. The judge stepped in. "All rise." We stood. The hearing began. It wasn't dramatic like in movies. Just facts, statements, truth. Spoken out loud for the first time, Layla clutched a small stone in her hand. She told her story, slowly, painfully, but she told it. The opposing side didn't have much to say, not really. Her ex had already broken too many line text messages, voicemails, pictures. The truth was finally heavier than his lies. The judge took notes. Emma gave Leela's emotional testimony context. The trauma, the pattern, and then the judge turned to me. "Do you have anything to add, Mr. Carter?" I stood, steady but calm. "No, Your Honor," I said. "The truth is already spoken." That was it. A few moments passed. The judge leaned forward. "Restraining order is granted, permanent, effective immediately." Leela gasped. Tears welled up in her eyes. Emma placed a hand on her back gently. As we walked out of the courtroom, Emma slowed beside me. Everyone else moved ahead, but she stopped us in the hallway. She looked up at me, eyes soft but full. "I never told you this," she said. "But that night, before I walked away, I almost didn't run." I whispered, "But I did. Because of you." She reached out and took my hand just for a second. "Just long enough, Your Honor," she whispered with a smile. "You saved me." I didn't know what to say. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I finally did. I used to be the forgotten one, the quiet one, the disgrace. Now I was the one who showed up, the one who stood, the one who listened when silence used to be my shelter. We stepped back into the sunlight, Emma beside me, Lila walking just ahead, and I realized Di wasn't just living a new life. I had become the man I once needed.